News, Britain's news channel.
Joined by international life coach Cheryl Findlay, who has joined forces with a Liverpool business owner, Kate Hill, of sustainable sportswear brand Lola Star, to empower women and inspire women across the nation. And to celebrate this partnership with the new Lola Star collection, the two will be hosting an exclusive event next Saturday.
The brand was launched after, well, your story. You lost how much weight?
So 16 stone, which is over 220 pounds, which
wow.
I know is quite significant. But during that kind of decade-long journey, I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about what it takes to be successful, to be happy, to be well, and to just live an incredible life every day.
Are you giving them goals to work towards or helping them structure their life?
Yeah, so I don't give out goals, absolutely not. It's all about whatever an individual wants. So what we do to begin with is we understand, like, where are you now? Where are you thriving? Where do you feel really happy and excited in your life? And what's lacking? Like, where would you like to feel better? Where would you like to improve? And then we take it from there.
So I'd love to take that on board. I'd love to be my true self and fulfil my potential. So have you got any practical tips on how to do that?
Yeah, so we start with clarity, right? Like, you need to know, it's such a busy, fast-paced world we live in. There's so much sensory overload. You know, it'd be so easy to be distracted. So we need to kind of quiet all that noise down and start with, where do I want to focus? Pick 2 or 3 things. Where do I want to focus? And then we define the goal. What would I like that area of my life to look, not just look like, but feel like? And then we take it from there. So that's where you would start. I actually had a cancer diagnosis in 2019.
Oh.
And I just decided if I was going to be lucky enough to be on the other side of it, I wasn't going to play small anymore.
GB News, the people's...
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the arguments. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers tonight. Join us over the next hour to find out, how do you solve a problem like Syria? Should we be able to marry our sexy cousins? And who has just given the humble computer a serious glow-up? I'm Simon Evans. Tonight I've got Leo Kearse and Lewis Schaefer taking you through tomorrow's top stories. This is Headliners. But before tomorrow's news, let's go one last time for tonight's headlines with Sophia Winsler.
Simon, thank you. These are your headlines from the GB newsroom at 11 o'clock. The Prime Minister has said Britain and its allies must be intensely focused on the transition to a new regime in Syria amid fears of a resurgence of Islamic State. It comes as the UK has paused all Syrian asylum claims. It follows France, Germany and Austria saying they would pause decisions on asylum requests from Syrian citizens until the political situation in the Middle Eastern country became clear. Speaking moments ago, Home Secretary Yvette Cooper confirmed the UK would be assessing the situation.
That the situation in Syria is moving extremely fast after the fall of the Assad regime. We have seen some people returning to Syria, but we also have a very fast-moving situation that we need to closely monitor. And that is why, like Germany, like France and like other countries, we have paused asylum decisions on cases from Syria while the Home Office reviews and monitors the current situation.
Meanwhile, the UK and Germany have agreed a new joint action plan to tackle people smuggling gangs. Germany has pledged to tighten its law to make it easier to prosecute people smugglers, enabling small boat crossings to Britain. The Home Office said the deal would give German prosecutors more tools to tackle the supply and storage of dangerous small boats. Both countries will also commit to exchange information that may help to remove migrant smuggling content from social media platforms and tackle end-to-end routes of criminal smuggling networks as part of the deal. Now, Sir Keir Starmer is facing criticism for putting efforts to kickstart economic growth above human rights concerns as he held talks with Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Downing Street said the economy was Sir Keir's #1 priority, but insisted he would still raise concerns about the Saudi government's human rights record. Campaigners are urging the Prime Minister to speak out on the cases of child defendants facing the death penalty and the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. A man has been arrested in connection with the fatal shooting of a US healthcare CEO in what's believed to have been a targeted assassination. 26-year-old Luigi Mangione is being detained over the fatal shooting of United Healthcare Chief Executive Brian Thompson. And Premier League referee David Coote has been sacked after an investigation into his conduct. Professional Game Match Officials Limited made the statement after a video emerged last month of 42-year-old Coote appearing to make derogatory remarks about Liverpool and their former manager, Jurgen Klopp. Those are the latest GB News headlines. Now it's time for Headliners.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Thank you, Sophia. Hello and welcome to Headliners, your first look at tomorrow's top stories with 3 comedians. And before we get stuck into the papers, let's have a quick taste of what Leo and Lewis will have to work with on Monday's front pages. Mondays, is it? It's Tuesday, surely. Let's have a look at tomorrow's front pages. The Metro, stabbed to death for a teddy bear. Telegraph, asylum cases on hold amid terror fear. The Guardian, hope and despair in Assad's human slaughterhouse. The Daily Mail, Syria chaos is a chronic threat to our security. The Independent, families crowd Assad torture jail after regime falls. And The Star, we need to probe Uranus. Thank goodness for them. So, we have the Daily Mail to kick us off, Leo, with the story that seems to be dominating.
Yeah, so Syria chaos is a chronic threat to our security. This is a warning from an ex-MI6 boss over ISIS prisoners who could flee. So thousands of jihadis being held in Syria pose a chronic threat to the West security. If they're released, there's Saidnaya prison, if I've pronounced that correctly, in Damascus, which holds apparently up to or more than 10,000 people. And some people have been in there for decades. There's reports that a lot of it's underground, so people have never seen the light of day. They've got families down there because they've been down so long. The inmates are,
They're mixed, sexually mixed, the cells.
They've been down there so long, it's like Jurassic Park. They've found a way to breed without...
Monozote or whatever it is, yes, OK.
But, I mean, this is a lot of people. If they get out, a lot of them are hardcore jihadis. I should imagine being held in a top security prison in Damascus didn't do anything to rehabilitate them. No. And some of them, or a big portion of them, were renditioned into Syria by the CIA. Syria was a preferred site for the CIA to fly people in the middle of the night and then perform waterboarding and whatever else to find out secrets. So they're going to come out. They're going to have a grudge against the West, and obviously the rest of Europe has closed its doors to refugees. Britain, even though we've said, we're suspending applications, they can just say they're from Iraq or Afghanistan or wherever and automatically get waved through. There's very little we can do. We've got a completely porous border. So so we could feasibly be seeing an uptick in jihadi violence in the UK.
Are you picturing them coming over in the small boats across the channel, but presumably also if they're well-connected terrorists, they could get fake passports and so on as well, I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, I think most will just come across the easiest way.
Lewis?
I can't believe you're saying that, Leo. There's very little we can do. We can just not let them in. You don't have to let them in. And you're making it seem like, we got these few ISIS, or maybe there's a couple of thousand ISIS. They're all ISIS. Every single one one of those people. Have you seen the pictures of these guys? There's not one of them who's like waving an American flag.
But these are the ones, I suppose the only upside is these are the ones who are being sprung from jail by ISIS/Al-Qaeda, or at least until 10 minutes ago, the insurgents who are now being reappraised for their diplomatic status. So why would they want to leave Syria? They're now in charge. Their regime is now...
Because they've got a map... Sorry.
Go ahead.
That sounded interesting. I wanted to know what they've got.
They've got a map of the world. They've got a map of the world, and there's a big red bit on top of Africa, which is Islam. They've got a big red bit that's Iran and Saudi Arabia, that's Islam.
And then there's the UK.
And then they're heading in this direction. You know,
and also worth mentioning at this point, Assad's wife, Asma, which is a great name for he fancied a heavy breather, obviously. But Asma has a British passport. She's actually has British citizenship.
So she wouldn't need to be on the boat?
No, she can fly over and probably get a +1.
Well, you know what the thing is? I don't know, this whole Syria thing, they may not be nice people. You know, Assad may not have been a nice guy, but there was 4 million of his clan, the Alawites, who were basically the Muslims. A lot of the Muslims hated the Alawites. There's 4 million. The country has 23 million. You've
been doing the reading. I've got a horrible confession.
Make a note of that.
I listened to Rory Stewart and Alistair Campbell on this, because this is the stuff Rory Stewart actually knows about, unlike America, which he gets horrifically wrong, and Britain. But actually the Middle East and the factions in Islam and so on, it is an extraordinary country. I hadn't really quite grasped just how divided, how tribal it is, how many divisions there are. And as you say, this particular sect of Islam, which the Assad family represented, as he put it there, like the Mormons are to Christianity, like really quite cuckoo, even by Islamic, even by Islamic standards. But, you know, they believe in, I think it's that one, they believe in reincarnation, including possibly as a plant.
Yeah.
And I mean, that probably fit. That maybe the people of this country would like that. But
maybe it's
all the
sounds like King Charles. It's also interesting that the leader of HTS, the Syrian rebel leader, he's now doing interviews with pronouns. He's trying to say he's saying like, oh, we respect diversity and stuff. So he's taking all the talking points. He's had a sort of DEI makeover for Al Qaeda.
Ever so slightly cynical. He saw what happened to the Taliban. They got educated.
Well, now it makes him eligible for Arts Council funding. So
he got a call from Zelensky was helping him out because
that's absolutely
everything
right,
went so well after the last Arab Spring. I have nothing but optimism. Anyway, let's have a look at the Daily Telegraph, Lewis.
The Daily Telegraph: asylum seekers on hold amid terror fear. This isn't the Telegraph.
Same
and
story.
It's £3.50 for the Telegram. This is going to stop most of our readers, most of our viewers from buying this stuff.
You get the good advantage with the Telegraph. You get the whole day's news on the front page, though. You've got 7 different stories there.
You do.
So what about offenders allowed to complete sentences working from home? That is stretching the definition of working from home.
Yeah, it's like basically it's stretching the whole idea that they're offenders. They're working from home. They're at home. It's like you stay at home. It's not a punishment. That's the thing about the Labour is the left is all. What's good about the left is they're feminists and they're feminized and they care about feelings and people, which is good. We need that.
Do you think letting criminals work out the remainder of their sentences at home is slightly domesticates and emasculates them in a way?
Not even I wouldn't go that far. No, it just gets them off the hook. It's weak.
It's weak, and also you've got to remember, this just provides an incentive to criminals to get really good at crime so they've got a nice home. Then you're in your nice home with your swimming pool and your home cinema system.
Are you allowed to keep that stuff after you're caught?
Of course,
Of course you are. This is Britain. But the point is that someone who's on community service should be wearing a high-vis jacket with community service as they're going out.
And a little, like, blue flashing light. Let's have a quick look at The Guardian, Leo. We haven't got much light time left on that.
So the Guardian have that hope and despair in Assad's human slaughterhouse, which we've pretty much covered. They've also got the UK suspending Syrian asylum applications, but like I said, it's not really going to make much difference to the number of people or the chances of Syrians getting over here. We've seen other countries, Germany and Austria, freezing asylum claims from Syria, and Sweden is actually saying it's going to repatriate people. Interestingly, or ironically, if we do repatriate Syrian asylum seekers, a lot of them just lied and said they were Syrian to get asylum in the first place. So we're going to be sending people who aren't even from Syria back to Syria.
I might take it.
Which is great, but the flip side side is Syrians are now going to be pretending to be Iraqis to get asylum. And another irony is that a lot of genuine refugees, the Christian and the Druze that are going to be persecuted by the jihadis that are now taking power, won't be able to get in because everything's turning a bit anti-refugee.
Let's have a very quick look at the Sun, Lewis, which has an hilarious story. If anyone saw that video of this referee online,
I did not see it. But it's a referee, and of course they're idiots. They're going to be idiots because they wish they could be playing and making the big money, and they're making like £35,000 a year. Or something.
But why would you video yourself? I mean, I can understand why he might banter with his mate in those terms. I'm hoping this isn't currently subject to contempt of court to discuss it. This video was widely shared.
Yeah, exactly. You never can tell with this country. You
don't know what it is. I mean, he could have just been tidying his desk. And can you think of a better way of clearing?
Powdered Tipex.
Yeah, can you think of a better way of clearing this powder off your desk?
Look at the dust in here. That's all the front pages examined. Still to come. Asylum claims and how to freeze them. We've probably done that. How to choke out a homeless person. That's a big story. And get away with it. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
What have you got?
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Donna Ida, who joins us now. And Donna, you look spectacular in your gorgeous denim jumpsuit.
Thank you.
And accessories. And it's important, isn't it, sometimes, just to keep things simple?
I always keep things simple. I travel a lot, I work long hours, and I don't want to think too much about what I'm wearing. So for me, one and done is perfect. Good accessories, fresh hair, nice makeup, and you can go anywhere, including GB News when you didn't know what was happening.
There we
Perfect.
go. Welcome.
Straight off the plane.
Can we ask you some of our top denim questions?
Yes.
Because Stephen Dixon, the presenter of The Breakfast Show who's just on, said that double denim to him is an absolute no-go.
Oh, what does he
Is that true?
Don't have him on again, darling.
OK. We're telling me fact.
I love double denim.
Really?
I love it. I think it is so cool.
Does it have to be a different
I was going
tones?
to say double denim, same colour.
Or same
I
tones?
like the... For me, I actually do like the same. Think Saint Laurent 70s. There's an amazing one that we're doing that's going to look great on you in the new season. The Joan Jean, we've got the City Slicker shirt. Oh, it's amazing. If it's done well, it's perfect. And I like it in a paler blue, but a good mid to dark. Very chic.
You go.
No, well, I was just thinking, little old me, not quite sure
You'd look amazing,
what to wear this morning. How
was a
do
bit
guys
stressed.
pull off denim?
For me, if I was dressing you, I would have put you in a pair of jeans this morning with his amazing jumper. Gorgeous watch.
Black, blue?
Black denim I do like. Men don't like it so much. Men like charcoal denim.
Oh, I don't like grey.
Charcoal. I love grey, and the best seller for men is charcoal denim.
GB News, the People's Channel. I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Simon Evans. Still got Leo Kirst and Lewis Schaefer here. We're onto the inside of the newspapers now. More on Syria in The Guardian, Lewis. First they take the $10 million bounty off his head, and now they're saying he might not be a terrorist at all.
Yes, exactly. Islamic group that toppled Assad in Syria may be taken off the UK terrorism list. The fact is that people who are getting Assad are also considered terrorists by the British government. And you know, he seems pretty handsome. handsome, that guy. He's got a great beard. He looks like our Osmond. You know Osmond, who works in the front there.
Okay.
The handsome, very burly, handsome Englishy type guy, not Englishy, Britishy guy. And the truth is, you don't know who to hate. The truth is, they're all hateable. They're all against us. We have to be careful about every single one of them.
Well, the two options in most of the sort of regime changes that we've seen in the last 20 years in the Middle East are you remove somebody who's broadly secular but brutal and replace them with Islamism, right?
Yeah, and tribal infighting. And that's exactly what we could very well see in Syria. It's already started. They had a sort of... the different factions, the rebel factions, were saying, we're not going to fight amongst ourselves, we're just going to take down Assad. The trouble is, Assad just immediately crumbled. Just fell down. A lot of the army... There was one guy, apparently the directions from up top were like, don't fight. And there was one commander who fought and stood and fought around the town of Hama and actually, put up all they needed to do was fight, and they would have suppressed these rebels. They had amazing kit. They had airstrikes from, they controlled the air and everything. And that commander, the Tiger, was actually told he was going to be arrested. So he and his troops saw what was happening and fled to Iraq, apparently. So now we're going to see the country just, break down into sort of internecine fighting.
Because obviously a big part of this is the fact that Russia is no longer in a position to support Assad, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the obvious reason being that they're all tied up and exhausted in Ukraine and distracted. But is there maybe another reason? I don't know whether there's any other reason why Assad would be abandoned at this point. I mean, he's been allowed to flee to Moscow, isn't he? So presumably,
I think when you see the writing on the wall, you got to get out. But you can only fight for so many years. He's been the prime minister for 24 years. He didn't seem like the prime minister type. He was an optometrist.
He's a mild-mannered ophthalmologist.
Yes, he's a lovely guy. Maybe he was as he was like working on people's eyes, he was dreaming of killing them.
I mean, this is the insane thing. They've said, again, on the podcast, they have been the ruling family there for longer than Rory Stewart has been alive. He's only 51, bless him. But, 54 years. And that's just two men.
Yeah.
And
I mean, obviously that wouldn't matter if it was a monarchy, but it's not a monarchy, not technically.
The point is they're Alawites. They're this small group. There's 4 million of them, and they're fighting 19 million other people.
Demographics in the end.
It's also going to be terrible news for Russia because Syria was a staging post. It was where they refueled planes so they could get to the Sahel, where they had enormous, economic power and military power over Africa, and that's all gone now.
Interesting. Well, it's obviously going to reframe the whole of the Middle East because Iran are not going to be able to funnel weapons into the Lebanon.
Yeah.
Israel have already started having a little bit of a nibble.
Israel apparently bombed a chemical weapons factory, which you'd think is great. Oh, they can't make chemical weapons. Unfortunately, it released all the chemical weapons, so now all the people round about the chemical weapons factory are coughing quite a lot.
That's what I was afraid of in 2003 when they were saying that's what Saddam had. I was like, well, maybe. Oh, well, we shall see. I suspect this is going to be the big story over Christmas, and more Christmassy stories now in The Independent, Leo, as Chancellor Reeves is talking Turkey and getting stuck into the Brussels.
So Reeves vows to stick to Brexit red lines after talks with EU in Brussels. So Ms Reeves became the first Chancellor to join the European member state finance ministers and EU commissioners for a meeting in Brussels since Brexit. So that's like a decade, almost a decade, with hopes running high that it would herald a more open-minded approach to reworking the flawed EU deal left by Boris Johnson. But she's said, even though she's now going to the meetings with the EU bigwigs, it seems like Labour are more, sitting at the table with the EU. She said, we had red lines of not rejoining the European Union, the single market, the customs union, or agree to the free movement of people. So she's saying that to sort of placate all the people who are saying...
Do you think, actually, that they do have in mind to rejoin?
I think we're going to gradually, through osmosis more than anything else, just gradually drift towards a sort of
If they have 10 years in power, I suspect by the end of that 10 years we'll be back in.
Yeah,
That's
I
my
mean,
suspicion.
At the moment, they'll be lucky if they get 10 months.
That's not true. Why do you say something like that? She said we have red lines.
Yeah, they have red lines. Everyone has red lines. I had red lines. You want to see where my red lines were? They're under carpet.
Wait, no, and your mistress is flat. Your wife is saying, listen, remember, you've got red lines. It's ridiculous. You don't meet with these people at the meeting. Maybe you do.
Yeah.
And yet these people...
Well, it would be nice if they could get some slightly more relaxed sort of terms for trade and so on. I mean, I'm up for that.
Because also with Brexit, we didn't even get the things we were promised. We were promised sovereignty. We were promised control over our borders. We got the opposite of that.
We got the absolute worst of it all. We haven't left the ECHR.
We didn't get that from them. We got that from our own people. Boris Johnson letting all those millions of people...
Well, that is true. The Boris wave. On the other hand, Michel Barnier wasn't exactly be, on our side, was it? And he's got his comeuppance now.
How can you expect that? Have you ever been divorced? Have you ever been divorced? What do you expect your wife to be nice to you after you?
Oh, I thought you were saying Barnier was going through a divorce at the time.
No, but probably was. Yeah. He's French.
I hope he didn't buy a flat. I don't even know why
I said that.
Lewis, The Guardian have Keir Starmer on his way to touch the Saudi orb of power and magically grow our economy.
Magically, yeah. Keir Starmer says Saudi Arabia trip for Phil's. He's in Saudi Arabia. The #1 mission to grow the UK economy. And this is basically proving him to be, I don't know whether you could say he's a hypocrite or not, because he got on the Tories case for shaking the hand of those guys and trying to make...
Shaking the hand of ...
Yeah, but those guys got money. And he wants money to come into the country. And that's what... So he's doing a good... It reminds you, did you see what Trump said? He was interviewed by somebody, and Trump... And the woman said to him, you didn't say that when you were president. And he says, well, I'm not president now.
Well, the rules change a bit. I'm inclined to forgive him on that front. I don't know that Saudi Arabia is the worst people to be doing business with.
They are the worst. They are the next Assad. Okay. They have a small group of people, and they're pretending that they're the country. It's called Saudi Arabia. It's Arabia. So they put their Saudi as their own name.
Yeah, it's a family name, isn't it? Yeah. I remember when I found that out, I was quite shocked. There's something slightly odd about that, isn't it? It's like having a shop name or something over the country.
Windsor, Britain.
Yeah, and when it's like Windsor, Britain. Do you say Windsor?
It is, yeah. And although that would be Saxe-Coburg, Britain. Yeah. Because they would have thought they'd change it.
They changed it because it sounded German. Yeah. All right, there you go. But the point is it means that Saudi Arabia is going to fall as quickly.
Well, no, I think he's got a lot tighter grip on power, and what's his name, Emirs?
Things are getting better. Things weren't getting better in Syria. At the end of the day, people riot, people overthrow regimes based on how, if they can get bread. And I think Middle Eastern money coming into the country is good. I mean, they could buy Harrods. That worked out great.
Well, Saudi's sort of connected with the Emirates as well, isn't it? There's pretty close ties there. So they got all the wealth of the oil and also the international Playboy thing, which Damascus never quite cut it on that front.
And what's good about it is we're going to recognise the money that's coming in because it was our money.
You're going to see our faces.
And also, Keir Starmer, don't give him grief for going to Saudi Arabia.
No.
We've got people in this country. Alistair Campbell is this sort of rehabilitated figure. He's as bad as MBS.
Yeah, absolutely right. Much
as bad as MDF as well.
MDF, he does give that feeling. Good news for us highly trained street smart vigilantes now, Leo, as the Times report that Subway hero Daniel is not a bad penny.
So this is Daniel Penny, who's been found not guilty over the subway chokehold of Jordan Neely. So Daniel Penny is a former US Marine who's been acquitted over the fatal choking of a homeless black street performer on the New York subway. Reading that sentence, you'd think he just went up. And this is how it's portrayed by the prosecution. Didn't like the Michael Jackson impression. You're 2 decades out, anything like that. That's not what it was. The guy got on, this guy Jordan Neely got on the train, was acting really erratically, threatening. People were obviously scared of him. People, wanted somebody to step in. So Daniel Penny stepped in, and his supporters see him as a good Samaritan who risked his life to defend strangers. And obviously the other side describe him as a white vigilante who killed a vulnerable man who's pleading for help. And this is, a racially charged thing because Daniel Penny is white and Jordan Neely is black. So the prosecutor actually referred
and he's
to Daniel
extremely
Penny.
White. It's worth saying he looks like a 1980s German footballer.
Oh, he looks like propaganda for white people. You know what I mean? It's like he just needs
straight back.
Yeah, just needs to be holding a hammer or something, and it's straight away you're in those 1930s German posters. But the prosecutor referred to him as the white man. It was a really, we're still in this racially charged situation. But Jordan Neely had several convictions for unprovoked assaults on women in the subway, and what's going to happen now is nobody's going to step in. This sort of high trust society.
Well, they might do now because he's been let off. Although he's been through the ringer.
He's still got to be sued. He's got BLM. He's got people threatening to execute him. Like nobody. I've stepped in the past. I remember about 15 years ago when I came down to London, there was somebody on the train acting erratically, and I stepped in. I'm not going to do that anymore. No way. I'm not going to jail. You can just, whatever they want to do to you, they can do to you.
Leo, what year is this? You're acting like it's 1950 and they're just finding out, like, where I'm not going to stand up for it. This is 2024. The people there know. They know don't get involved.
He was an outlier, certainly.
He was an outlier.
I think it's quite interesting, however, that Black Lives Matter did try and rabble-rouse. There was some guy doing a street preacher outside the court.
Yeah.
Well, they've all dispersed. I think it's because it's December, it's cold and it's wet and it's dark in the evening, you know.
Yeah.
If it was the middle of summer, this court case, I think they'd be looking at a bit of urban...
No, you've left out the biggest factor is that New Yorkers, and I'm a New Yorker, I can feel it. They're fed up, and Trump won. Trump won. It's over for the left. Those people don't want to fight these battles.
Let's see if we can squeeze this in within a minute. Another jobbed, but well, we've still got the conspiracy theories to come. They're taking over and they're proving a strain to our democracy by being proven true. And also, what should we do about our sexy, sexy cousins? This is Headliners, only on GB News.
Evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Clear skies overnight across the north will allow things to turn very frosty. Also some thick fog patches for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Further south, staying largely dry but quite cloudy. This weather front still generating quite a few showers across the far southeast, parts of Essex, even as far north as Suffolk. Those showers feeding in across Kent, the London area, into parts of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. But away from the southeast, it is generally dry. Clearer skies here. That's where the fog is going to thicken up. Southwest Scotland, also western parts of Northern Ireland. That fog likely to be pretty dense and linger well into tomorrow. For England and Wales, we'll keep a lot of cloud. That'll keep the temperatures generally above freezing. But a wet start for parts of the southeast. Still a few showers coming in, particularly across parts of Kent, feeding all the way down across the Channel Islands too. But elsewhere, generally dry and cloudy for England and Wales. Some frost across Cumbria and certainly further north and west across Scotland and Northern Ireland. The frost widespread and some dense patches of fog. Parts of the central belt, particularly to the west, southwest Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland. And where that fog forms through the night, it could be very slow to clear tomorrow. Quite a lot of cloud across the far north. Some drizzly rain heading its way towards Shetland. The showers in the southeast, well, still a few feeding in, but tending to fizzle out generally through the day. Some breaks in the cloud for North Wales, northwest England. Better sunshine possible here. Temperatures 6 or 7 Celsius. Still feeling cold with that wind coming in from the North Sea across the southeast. That's still there on Wednesday, as is the possibility of the odd shower across the south. Fog again for parts of southern Scotland and Northern Ireland, and again it could last all day. If it does, temperatures will struggle to get above freezing, but away from the fog, much of Scotland, Northern Ireland having another sunny day on Wednesday. Most of England and Wales staying fairly cloudy. Bye for now.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. Before we crack on, we'll have another quick look at tomorrow's front pages for the late arrivals. The Metro stabbed to death for a teddy bear. We're not covering that story, sadly. The Telegraph, asylum cases on hold amid terror fear. The Guardian, hope and despair in Assad's human slaughterhouse. The Daily Mail, Syria chaos is a chronic threat to our security. Nearly said chthonic then, which would have been curious. Yeah. The Independent, families crowd Assad torture jail after regime fails. And the Star, we need to probe Uranus. Yeah, OK, the Star. So now, Lewis. This one cuts a little closer to the bone for us comedians, but the Telegraph are reporting a move to ban cousin marriage. damage.
Yes, this is the Telegraph. Ban cousin marriage, says Tory MP. This is such a non-story because it's the Tories suggesting it. They're not in power, so the only way that they can get this up against anything is to put like one of those 10-minute bills that they have here, and if people go to it. But it's so racist, it's basically anti a group of people in the country who believe in that.
Which have a lot of consanguinity, and we're seeing certain maps, aren't we, now around the country.
And they marry people who have the same blood as them.
There's an increased likelihood of birth deformities and so on. I mean, it sounds... This is a thing that amuses me, and I made a little reference to it in the opening remark there, that it's a comedian's, it's a hack comics put down, right?
Yeah.
But what a shame when cousins marry and, hi, you're from Norfolk, give me 6 and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But actually, we're importing a far more...
people who actually do it.
People, rather than just sort of isolated sort of villages who just haven't got bicycles.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, the bicycle did have a big impact on that. There have been studies done, when you could leave the valley, you could go and have sex with somebody who wasn't related to you. But yeah, I mean, half of Pakistanis, this is in Pakistan, half of Pakistanis marry their cousins. And who are we to say?
It's a cultural thing as well. It's not just convenience, it's a way of keeping wealth
in the family, like it used to be in the UK. I mean, we used to have, people with, the Habsburg jaw in Europe. So we used to do it here as well. Some parts of some people in the upper class still do. I think I'm fine with it happening. I just think we should ban public health care for the result. I don't mind if you want to do that to yourself, but I don't want to pay for it. It is
fascinating, though. There was somebody on Twitter, I can't remember with their name, who sort of made it their big study. It was their whole thing, was the degree to which the church insistent on against, insisting you couldn't marry within the clan, and what a difference it made to our societies. Yeah. It's a hugely important and influential aspect.
Well, it's one part of this whole thing was breaking down families, breaking down local towns, breaking down tribes, breaking down countries, counties. Yeah. It's about this. Basically, I think I'm in favor of it. I'm in favor of marrying your cousin because it keeps people close to each other. And what they did was, what this country did especially, is they basically destroyed all those tiny little segments.
Well, it feels like there's always a virtuous path, right? The midway between two chasms of despair, and we've got away from the horrifically sort of corrupt, the patriarchal societies of, where a brutal man tells everyone who they're going to marry. But we're so atomised. We're not even nuclear families anymore. We're just not even families. What everyone really wants is what you see in The Godfather, right? The Godfather is this amazing movie on a number of levels, the subtle interplay between crime and politics, but mainly it's the home cooking, isn't it? It's like so many scenes take place, even like these men who are discussing an assassination, but there's an old mother in the corner.
Yeah, because and you've got somebody to cover your back. If you're being beaten up by your new husband, your brother goes and gets the guy killed.
And also, if your brother's a bit rubbish, you can have him shot.
And then have him shot. I said killed.
Leo, apparently conspiracy theories are putting the UK at risk of democratic decline. Well, I mean, they would say that, wouldn't they?
So conspiracy theories and extreme misogyny are in danger of becoming mainstream in the UK, according to a report. So this is conspiracy theories and extreme misogyny, or as I call them, spoiler alerts and gender realism. Apparently conspiracy theories are becoming mainstream. And the example they give here is the conspiracy theory that the number of deaths from coronavirus was being deliberately reduced or hidden by the authorities. I've never heard of that conspiracy theory in my life.
Nonsense.
It was the other way round. Yeah. The conspiracy theory, and probably the truth as well, is that the deaths were being inflated.
The danger of the thing was inflated. That was absolutely the case. I mean, that was absolutely the case that was the theory, and also I believe it was true. But it was certainly, there would have been no theory that what could you possibly have hoped to gain by propagating the idea that it was worse than they were saying?
Because this whole thing is by some woman. This whatever name.
Extreme misogyny.
You have to see it. It's basically saying this woman is saying that all this murdering and abusing of essaying of women is going on. When the truth is, men aren't getting married. Men aren't going on dates. They're staying at home and they're playing with their little computer game. Well, they don't want anything to do with women. And listen to what I'm going to say, because I have to say this: is that there's a saying is that paranoia is the last hope of the ignored.
Ooh,
that's a great
Schaefer.
Write
And
that one down.
It is interesting. So she was Dame Sarah was previously the commissioner for countering extremism. Now, surely, if you're looking at extremism in the UK, why are you looking at conspiracy theories and extreme misogyny? Where are the sort of mass stabbings? Where are the explosions at pop concerts because of conspiracy theories? Because of there are other radicalisation centres that aren't being talked about.
Yeah, well, Dame Sarah Khan has obviously decided that that certain other demographics need to be accused and, likely to be identified as a potential threat.
Right.
This has been an ongoing thing, though, right? We all know with Prevent, tries to make us convince us that the far right present as much of a threat.
Yeah.
As Islamism and other sort of well-established.
I was talking about
threats.
Quakers.
Oh, right, the Quakers, yeah. Well, if they quake enough, I guess. But yeah, it's ridiculous. And of course, Andrew Tate crops up in paragraph 6. He's a one-man crime wave. This man,
they have to put him in. They've got to put him in. And they find that 45% of young men like the guy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like the guy that much. I used to like him.
He's not that much worse than Gary Glitter, though, is he? That I grew up with as a and associated top of the pops.
And also people like Keir Starmer sort of give credence to conspiracy theories because, the idea that mass immigration was being done deliberately, we had this sort of one nation experiment in open borders. That was a conspiracy theory a few weeks ago. Yeah. Then you suddenly see Keir stating it as if it's never been a conspiracy theory. And he's literally said it's happened by design. He said it's a one-nation experiment in open borders.
The only thing he stopped short of using the words "great replacement." Yeah, that was about as
and
much
saying
was
that
left.
He was partially responsible.
As it was with Jon Stewart when he announced
that's Rory Stewart.
The Wuhan Jon Stewart on the Daily. Well, it was on Stephen Colbert's thing when he decided that it was okay now to acknowledge that Wuhan lab was probably the origin of the COVID, right?
And Biden's cognitive decline. One week it was a conspiracy theory, the next week they were saying the Democrats were saying it.
How long before the moon landings are finally exposed? Another day, Lewis, another horrific story in the Telegraph of parents being excluded from their children's gender experiments.
Yeah, this is in the Telegraph, which is $3.50 a copy. My daughter's school convinced her she was transgender, and they didn't tell me. This is a mother, and this is a woman speaking. She's from Tennessee, and there's the big argument in the Supreme Court where they're fighting over the laws that the Tennessee and 25 other states have passed, saying that we want to know what's going on, and you shouldn't be cutting our children, and you shouldn't basically doing this. This is like the Scopes trial. Do you remember the Scopes trial?
Yeah, the monkey trial,
which also took place in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Which was basically, from what I remember,
teaching Darwinism in the school, right?
And it was basically saying Darwinism is the right thing, and they made fun of the people who were against teaching Darwinism.
Yeah.
And little do we know that Darwinism, give it a couple of days.
It is a fascinating case, that, because it's misrepresented, and they made a great movie about it as well, didn't they? But it's often misrepresented, as these things often are. It was a bit like Rosa Parks. It was a lot more knowingly playing the media. But anyway, we're going down a rabbit hole.
But that is the rabbit hole of this.
Yeah.
The government should not be involved in what goes on in schools.
But it's terrible. This girl is 12 years of age. I cannot get past the mother's name, though. January Littlejohn.
That's completely different cults.
That just obliterates everything else that you read. Yeah. Anyway, let's have a quick look at number 13, Leo. This is our Labour donor who. He's one of the rising voices in the world of political rent-a-gobs. I really despise this man. He thinks that the M&S superstore should be demolished.
Yeah, so this is Dale Vince, who's one of the big Labour donors, but, I mean, he gives them loads of money, like millions of pounds, but he gets tens of millions of pounds back in government subsidies, so it's money, it's an investment, it's not a donation.
He's a green energy guy, right?
He's a green energy baron, that's right.
But he's always pictured wearing a Palestinian scarf, and he's got his sort of, like, Judith Butler haircut. Absolutely loathe this man.
He's down with the kids. But yeah, he says sometimes British heritage is history on life support, and this is over the demolition of Marks and Spencer's Art Deco Oxford Street store, and it's going to be rebuilt in this sort of brutalist, soulless sort of, glass, eco-friendly,
made of re-chewed and spat out like beaver materials.
That's going to be proven to give you cancer in about 3 years' time, or be an incredible, it'll be like the cladding. It just burns incredibly quickly. There's reasons we should just build the houses out of stone. I don't know. He's kind of got a point in this case, because apparently the energy consumption of the building will fall by 75%. So that is, and Marks and Spencer's want to do it.
How much energy consumption would it take to demolish it and build a new one? That's going to be at least 30 years worth of energy consumption.
Do you want to know something? They're making a mistake by doing this, because Donald Trump was hated in New York for destroying the Bonwit Teller building to build his Trump Tower. And that was a beautiful Art Deco building. And they just said, oh, it's Art Deco. It's not really that old. And he was asked to preserve some bas-relief, some artwork on the thing. And he said, I'll save it. And then he never saved it.
Art Deco is the style in New York. It's not quite so typical of London, but that is... it was in the Guinness Book of Records when I was a kid. That store is the busiest store in the world.
Wow.
The Bonwit Tellers?
The M&S on Marble Arch.
Oh, the M&S on Marble Arch.
Yeah. And it's not that impressive to look at now. I mean, you could build up from it, but,
But we're not just build up from it. You know what it is? We should not be destroying our own buildings. That's for the Germans.
Lewis, time very quickly to revisit the anti-Semitism that was unleashed at the Oxford Union a couple of weeks ago.
Where is Josh?
30 seconds.
Where is Josh? Josh. Is this anti-Semitism? The night anti-Semitism in Oxford sprung out of control. It's just an article saying there's anti-Semitism and people hate Jews and Israelis who are also Jews.
It is rumbling on a bit, this one, isn't it? It was just like one debate.
November 28th. This isn't news. This is old.
Yeah, OK.
This is old.
Let's move on. Still to come, why Google searches have just got 1 trillion times quicker. Actually, that's not an exaggeration. Why Japanese women's voices are higher than Hunter Biden. This is Headliners, only on GB News.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
Christmas canapé offers partygoers a small treat that staves off hunger and soaks up the fizz. Founder and host of Crazy Sexy Food, Hannah Hardy-Young, joins me now with a toothsome selection. Lovely to see you, Hannah.
You too.
Origin of the word canapé?
Yes, French. Sort of from the, of course, from sort of the 1800s. It means sofa. So it's sort of playing on the analogy of someone sitting or lying on a sofa. It is about the garnish, traditionally sitting on a piece of stale bread or pastry. Obviously, it's evolved over the years. I don't have any stale bread for you, don't worry. But the idea is that it's something sort of garnish, something exciting sitting on a vehicle that you can put in your mouth in 1 or 2 bites.
It's obviously post-war. What is it? Is it 60s or 70s? How long have we been eating these things?
I would say around about then. And I think what's interesting, I mean, I always look towards even the 80s, a little bit sort of... later. You sort of have that, sort of the classic vol au vent, which was, a little bit dry, a little bit tasteless. And I think that's why I've brought a real selection for you to show you how far we've come. Another traditional one, obviously, being your pigs in blankets. I'm going to hold off for a second before I choke. Another thing that I have to say about canapés, there are a few little tips that I must give people super quickly. Make sure they're small. 1 or 2 bites. When you're at a party, you're standing, you've got a glass in one hand, then you need to hold it. There. OK, I would have preferred a glass of wine, but, I can't stand these canapés where I have to put the glass down in order to eat the food. I want to do it all at once.
I couldn't agree more. You should never eat more than you can lift.
Exactly.
GB News, the People's Channel. Weekdays on GB News. Wake up to breakfast every day from 6 a.m. Followed by Britain's newsroom at 9:30. At noon, it's Good Afternoon Britain. Followed by Martin Daubney from 3 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners for our final quirky section. And Leo, the good news from the Only Supercomputers Can Save Us Now school of thought. And after a mint that is not just mind-boggling, it's giga-mind-boggling.
Yeah, Google have unveiled a mind-boggling quantum computing chip. It takes just 5 minutes to complete tasks that would take 10 million years for some of the world's fastest conventional computers to complete. So that's 10 septillion years, so a lot more than 5 minutes. So this is insane.
It's to be fair, that's like a billion times longer than the universe has existed.
Yeah. So we're getting into just silly numbers now. This is ridiculous. It's called Willow. It's named after the George Lucas film, probably his best film. And it's apparently the problem with quantum chips is they're prone to errors because they're doing stuff really fast. And you know what it's like when you do stuff really fast, you make mistakes. So if you do 5 minutes of work and your 10 septillion years of work in 5 minutes, you're going to make a lot of mistakes.
Speed.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one apparently doesn't make as many mistakes, but still, it's one of these things. It's like, oh, we've got a car that runs on water. Oh, we're all going to have jetpacks. You know what I mean? It's like, until it's in my toaster, I don't care.
Well, you won't need, it won't be like, everyone's going to have one. It's going to solve some major problems. This one computer will work out what's going wrong with fusion, sort out climate. You know, it'll crack a few nuts. I am intrigued to know how they can say that it can solve problems that other computers would take longer than the lifespan of the universe to solve. Yeah. How do they know how long it would have taken them?
That's a good point. And they're trying to say this is such a great idea. It's going to mean, like, instant drugs. Drugs are going to save the world. They all have to tie it back to drugs. They always have medications. The truth is, Google is an evil company. Is an evil company.
The clues were always there because they said don't be evil, and then they stopped saying that.
Exactly. And what do? They're like blocking people, they're kicking people offline. All the things that they said they were.
Gemini giving us black popes.
So what's the motto now? Like, be a bit evil something?
Yeah.
Just don't,
evil is as evil does.
Be less evil than Zuckerberg, maybe.
Lewis, nearly half of all Brits fear the speed of technological change in the Mail, and I bet I know which half it is.
Yeah, this is saying the AI thing makes people afraid. It's not the AI thing makes people afraid, because there's always been change. It's that we're being rammed down our throat with fear. We're told to be afraid of germs. We're told to be afraid of the Russians. And now we're told to be afraid of... Basically, they're saying that they've been successful for 45% of people are afraid.
Yeah.
And does that mean they should be afraid?
I think certain people get afraid anyway when they reach their 40s or 50s about their skills no longer, becoming obsolete. A lot of old people, a lot of middle-aged people can find that the world of work changes around them and they find it hard to adapt. They probably did feel that in the 1950s, 1920s, maybe even...
But do you agree with what I said?
Yeah, totally.
I'm saying they're trying to make...
They're trying to make you afraid. I think there are certain kinds of jobs, certain kinds of tasks that AI is proving extraordinarily adept at, but actually, if you're reasonably well unionised, you can usually protect your own income.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're not like a BuzzFeed journalist or something, I think you're going to be safe. And we've seen that some people, some trades, like truck drivers, they're actually... Because new truck drivers weren't entering the industry, the older truck drivers get a pay rise, there's not enough truckers, and they can earn more money.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right about BuzzFeed. I know it's slightly facetious, but actually it is the jobs that were only invented 5 minutes ago, which often go first, isn't it? In the same way that you get those kind of media for, mini disc or something comes along and then is immediately displaced by compact disc. You had vinyl for 40 years and then mini disc for a year.
Or you could say, like, a job like journalism, which has been around for 100, 200 years.
Yeah.
That they're all gone. All those people on, MSNBC.
But there's lots of people now earning a living on Substack or whatever, There are lots of ways you can do it.
It's not journalism.
It's not journalism, but was it ever? Complicated story about proteins now. and ageing Leo that makes me feel also old and confused.
So scientists discover the brain's 3 aging waves, and it starts before the age of 60. So basically, our brains go through these 3 distinct aging peaks throughout our lives, according to a new study. And there's 13 proteins linked to brain aging, and they spike at the ages of 57, 70 and 78. So are you 57?
I've had the first one.
What are the...
How was it for you?
That is crazy, though, isn't it? It's obviously not that specific, but it's funny, you know, you do get little concerns. Have you ever had them that feel that you're kind of... Hello, my brain isn't functioning quite the way it used to. You know?
I always felt that way. I felt that way when I was young. I always felt like maybe I shouldn't be using Q-tips because it's blocking. Or sometimes I felt that things were going into my brain through my...
This is when you went carnivore, and it saved you.
And then it did save me. I'm going through the best years. The point is, you cannot believe this numbers. They've tested people of a certain age who are probably unhealthy because they're Americans or Britain or wherever country they're living in. And so you can't, just because a lot of them are maybe aren't doing that well at 70, that doesn't mean if you ate an all-meat diet with raw eggs, raw whole meat, you wouldn't be doing... Look how great I look and how great I'm...
We've got 40 seconds to cover this one. Japanese women speaking a soft and sweet high falsetto, Lewis, and rather than ask how can we emulate this paradigm of femininity, researchers in the Times want to pathologise it.
Exactly. They said, why do women speak so high? It's down to men. They're making it like some kind of sexist issue.
Yeah.
Men, which is part of the double thing, we like women who sound like children.
Speak sweetly and softly.
Yes, who speak sweetly and softly. And
the way women do on the telephone when they don't know you.
Yes, how nice they are. You fall in love with them and you find that they're horrible. Right. You marry them, and then you don't get to see your kids. How does a woman speak when she's in divorce court?
Okay. The show is nearly over. Let's take another quick look at Tuesday's front pages. We have the Metro first. Stabbed to death for a teddy bear. The Telegraph. Asylum cases on hold amid terror fear. The Guardian. Hope and despair in Assad's human slaughterhouse. Daily Mail. Syria chaos is a chronic threat to our security. Independent. Families crowd Assad torture jail after regime falls. And The Star. We need to probe Uranus. That's it for tonight's show. Thanks to my guests Leo and Lewis. Josh Howie will be back tomorrow night at 11 p.m. with more stories from the Oxford Union. He'll be joined by Paul Cox and Kerry Marks. If you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Otherwise, thank you very much for your company. I wish you a deep and peaceful night's rest. See you again soon.
You're not giving him a chance to defend.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Clear skies overnight across the north will allow things to turn very frosty. Also some thick fog patches for parts of Scotland and Northern Ireland. Further south, staying largely dry but quite cloudy. This weather front still generating quite a few showers across the far southeast, parts of Essex, even as far north as Suffolk. Those showers feeding in across Kent, the London area, into parts of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. But away from the southeast, it is generally dry. Clearer skies here. That's where the fog is going to thicken up. Southwest Scotland, also western parts of Northern Ireland. That fog likely to be pretty dense and linger well into tomorrow. For England and Wales, we'll keep a lot of cloud. That'll keep the temperatures generally above freezing. But a wet start for parts of the southeast. Still a few showers coming in, particularly across parts of Kent, feeding all the way down across the Channel Islands too. But elsewhere, generally dry and cloudy for England and Wales. Some frost across Cumbria and certainly further north and west across Scotland and Northern Ireland. The frost widespread and some dense patches of fog. Parts of the central belt, particularly to the west, southwest Scotland and parts of Northern Ireland. And where that fog forms through the night, it could be very slow to clear tomorrow. Quite a lot of cloud across the far north. Some drizzly rain heading its way towards Shetland. The showers in the southeast, well, still a few feeding in, but tending to fizzle out generally through the day. Some breaks in the cloud for North Wales, northwest England. Bit of sunshine possible here. Temperatures 6 or 7 Celsius. Still feeling cold with that wind coming in from the North Sea across the southeast. That's still there on Wednesday, as is the possibility of the odd shower across the south. Fog again for parts of southern Scotland and Northern Ireland, and again it could last all day. If it does, temperatures will